to bringing hope and the things we can do during this pandemic time and getting us ready to help change the world after. And there's so many things we can do. And the guests that we're having are people who are doing positive things. And I'm so grateful that you came and trusted us enough with your time and your concern and your love. And we hoped that we share something tonight that will be encouraging to you to reach out yourself to whatever way you can. And this is just the beginning right now. And we're going on from here. And we hope that you will be filled with a little more hope by the end of it.
Thank you, Trina. Also with us are Jose German, founder of the Northwest Earth Coalition Mission.
Northeast, Scott.
What?
Northeast Earth Coalition.
Well, I'm in the Northwest. I'm sorry. And okay. This is what happens when you get the technical guy to do the introductions. So, one more time, I apologize, Jose. Jose German, founder of the Northeast Earth Coalition Mission. Jose's been teaching people how to grow their food for over 30 years now. And we're looking forward to talking more with Jose. But first of all, I'd also like to introduce Mary Saul, who has some important words to begin with.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. So glad that you're here. The way that Trina is going to be communicating with everyone is through chat. And I know some of you are having trouble on mobile devices with the chat. The way we have the live event setup page, it seems that it was making you open up a new tab. So you're welcome to join us over on YouTube at the Hope for the Flowers. If you're here on the page right now, you can just tap inside the link and you'll see it'll bring you right to the YouTube, and you could actually chat with us right in the YouTube chat if you're on a mobile device. If you're here with us, please set your name. You're going to see it on the right hand side of your screen, and you can just set your name and we'll be taking questions and comments. Trina may be asking you questions, and that's how we're going to be able to interact. So with that being said, before we go on with our program, I do have a little exercise we'd like to do, and then we're going to get into the reading, and then we will all be back. So Scott, go ahead and take it away. Hello, fellow Hopers, family, friends, and Hope Revolutionaries. It's Marisol. Welcome to the 7 Days of Hope. I'm part of a wonderful Hope team. We've been working hard with Trina behind the scenes, and we hope you have a wonderful time tonight. Or today, it could be today, depending on where you are in the world, right? But we're so happy that you've joined us. Thank you for trusting us with this time together. Before we go on to our live presentation, and I'm sorry you might have to put up with this few minutes every night, but I want to bring us into state. I want us to all just take a moment to just relax our bodies and stand still and just acknowledge however we feel. However we feel, just acknowledge that. And then let's take a deep breath, just a deep inhale. But when we take that breath, let it be the breath of hope. So let's take that breath together. And we're going to hold for 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to release whatever cares, whatever things we need to let go. We're just going to release it as we exhale that breath. And we're going to do it 2 more times. We're going to inhale that breath of hope. And we're going to hold it for 1, 2, 3. And on the exhale, we're going to just release whatever we need to release and let go, whatever we need to let go. And 1 more time, breathe in that breath of hope. And breathe out whatever we have to release. And when you're ready to get back into the room, we are ready for you. Welcome and enjoy the 7 Days of Hope.
And take it away, please, Trina.
I think we're going to have a reading that we've had.
That's what we're doing next. That's right.
I think so. I think it's just the reading.
Here.
Unfortunately, some of this has been prepared beforehand, so we don't have to be on the ball all the time here.
Here we go.
Today we're going to be reading chapter 3. But here's a summary of chapters 1 and 2. In the first chapter, the little caterpillar is born, and he then eats and eats and eats and eats. His name is Stripe, until he gets bored eating and he crawls down from the tree that he's born on. And he looks around for what must be more to life, and he finds some little bugs and holes and things that he investigates, and then sees some caterpillars, and none of them know what they're supposed to do next. And then they see some other caterpillars crawling very swiftly toward this, what they find is a pillar. And not only is it a pillar, it's a pillar made of caterpillars. It's just caterpillars trying to crawl up someplace that they can't see. It's lost in the clouds atop. So what are they going to do? They all are climbing in, and Stripe says, it must be good because everybody's going there, and he pushes in too. So now he's discovering that as climber be climbed, you have to climb on others or they'll climb on you. And so you just going ahead, climbing over everybody, until one day he ends up talking to this little yellow caterpillar. And then one day he finds that she blocks his way up, and he decides to step on her. And then they really have an encounter. And he says his story, and they decide then to come down the pillar. And so here they are at the bottom of the pillar. And this is where day 3 is. It was like heaven for a while. But as time passed, even hugging each other seemed a little boring. Each knew every hair of the other. Stripe couldn't help wondering. There must still be more to life. Yellow saw how restless he was and tried to make him extra happy and comfortable. Just think how much better this is than that awful mess we left, she said. But we don't know what's at the top, he answered. Maybe we were wrong to come down. Maybe now that we've rested, the two of us could make it to the top. Dear Stripe, please, she begged. We have a nice home, and we love each other, and that's enough. It's so much more than all those lonely climbers have. She was so sure. Stripe let her convince him, but only for a while. Stripe's hankering for the climbing life worsened. The pillar haunted him. He crawled there regularly, looking up and wondering. But the top remained clouded. One day at the pillar, 3 thuds startled Stripe. 3 big caterpillars had fallen from someplace and smashed. 2 seemed dead, but one still wiggled. Stripe whispered, "What happened? Can I help?" He made out just a few words. The top. They'll see. Butterflies alone. The caterpillar died. Stripe crawled home and told Yellow. They were both very sober and quiet. What did the mysterious message mean? Had the caterpillars fallen from the very top? Finally, Stripe announced, "I've got to know. I must go and find out the secret of the top." And more gently, "Will you come and help me?" Yellow struggled inside. She loved Stripe and wanted to be with him. She wanted to help him succeed. But she just couldn't believe that the top was worth all it asks to get there. She wanted to get up too, The crawling life wasn't enough for her either. She also had to admit that it looked like the pile was the only way to do it. Striped seemed so sure that Yellow felt ashamed not to agree. She also felt stupid and embarrassed, since she could never put her reasons into words that his kind of logic would accept. Yet somehow waiting and not being sure was better than action she couldn't believe in. She couldn't explain. She couldn't prove anything. But for all her love, she couldn't go with Stripe. She just knew climbing was a wrong way to get high. No, she said, heartsick. And Stripe left her for his climb. The end of chapter 3.
And we're back.
Trina?
And thank you, Thais. You made such beautiful music. And it's the first time I'm hearing this with the music. So bless you. Thank you for that. And I understand yesterday I had muted myself during the reading and forgot to unmute. So the thank you that I was giving yesterday did not get through. But this is a learning thing. And one of the things we were trying to do with our first day is to encourage everybody to risk the technology that allows us to communicate with one another, because here we are all alone, so many places. And this is a very poignant little chapter. Stripe and Yellow romp around and play with each other and eat some grass and do all that kind of stuff. And it gets a bit boring, especially for Stripe. And the urge to get to the top someplace is powerful for him. So powerful that he has to go. And Yellow wants to go with him. She loves him, but she just knows it's not right. So that's where we are. And when I read this to very little children, this is the point at which they cry. They've separated. They don't go with each other, and it's very sad for them. This is the point of crying. And so here we are. And one of the things we want to do is think a little bit about the meaning of this chapter might be for us, and any comments that we have to make. The people here in our Scott and Marisol and Jose, if you have thoughts about what this point is of the book right now, the point that we're at, when two people who love each other have to make different decisions.
It's a very sad time, you know. It's a little heartbreaking that ultimately, you know, you think things are going one way, and I think I said this with the chapter yesterday too, and then suddenly they turn, and you know, that pull, that desire, that drive to do and to be more can be seen so differently, right? By the two, like the more is so different between what Stripe is thinking right now and what Yellow is thinking right now. You know, that's what sits with me, how different it is. The two of them have different definitions of the same thing.
And not only do the two of them have different definitions of the same thing, something that strikes me about Hope for the Flowers is that it means different things depending on what stage in life you are. And it's not a children's book, but it is. And if you're young and you're reading it, you know, there are just so many emotions that flow out, and there's so much angst, and it speaks to that. But in middle life, there are different things that we pay attention to. It's the empire building. It's, are we trying to go up to the pillar? And if we are going up to the pillar, is that right? And if not that, then how can we fly? And then I imagine, in the sunset of our life, it has a different sort of meaning, kind of looking back and legacy. And yeah, comparing, I did fine, or gee, I wish I would have done something a little bit different. So each chapter has its own meaning, but it has a different meaning depending on where we are in our own life. That's what I would say.
That's the advantage of a parable. And if people want me to say more, there's a part of me that's always wanted the book to just speak for itself, because what Scott says seems to be so true, that it means different things to people, different people at different times of life. And so my interpretation might not be where you're fitting right now. Actually, folks, I get something out of it too, believe it or not, because I don't feel I wrote this book. I sort of was a channel or something. I think God gave this book to me years ago, and it almost seems that this is the moment for it. And this is such a hard time. We're in a global cocoon in a certain sense, and I can't resolve these things for you. And I'm hoping that the book brings some hope. And that's the point of all of this. And the guests we're having are people who are willing to face the hardness of this time, but also have hope for some changes. And I'm so grateful.
Trina, I have Gabby saying, for this chapter, sometimes we get so comfortable, but we still yearn to grow. And there are many different ways to grow. And it's super sad that they separated, but we each have our own journey. To grow, we are just taking leaps of faith and blindly trying to follow our heart. Sometimes it doesn't always lead where we want it to go, but yeah, so that's what we have. And then we have someone else here saying, Rana saying, hope for the flowers resonates to the inner recess of one's heart because it speaks to the truth. And earlier we were on a Zoom with Jose, and Jose, you had some great insight on the book that I would love for you to share.
Thank you, Marisol. Yes, I met Trina Paulus about probably 19 years ago. And since that time, we have been working together and collaborating in many projects.
That's the man.
But it was her book, Hope for the Flower, who connected us. And she was having in the front yard of her home an open garden tool and teaching people how to grow milkweed and take care of the caterpillars. And that was really appealing to me and very important to me. So for the past 19 years, I have been learning a lot from Trina in many ways, not only about her art, her writing, her activism, environmentalism, but at the same time as a person and a human being. So Hope for the Flower is very close to my heart. And we have been translated the essence of her book into the community, creating a more, beautiful habitat for people and wildlife, especially butterflies. Monarch butterfly, which is the passion of Trina and about, the main topic of her book. And we created a pollinator gardens in Crane Park, which is considered probably the only dedicated park to pollinators in Montclair and northern New Jersey. And we planted there probably about 75 different species of native plants to keep them fed during the season, but also host plant for them. And we planted about 5 different kind of milkweeds to allow the butterfly to lay out the eggs and then, grow there and in a sustainable way. But at the same time, we replicate in a smaller scale in South Fullerton Avenue, which is only a few blocks from the park, another small garden with the same purpose. But at the same time, that small garden has also another major objective, which is feeding people who are facing food insecurity. And like the caterpillar, they were hungry and they were looking for food. We have a place there where people, volunteers, are growing food for these people who are also looking for food. We were not happy with that. So we continue expanding and expanding. And then we move another project to Brookdale Park. And in Brookdale Park, it's a restoration project. We remove all the invasive plants there. And then we created a pollinator butterfly garden. It is huge and it's in the open. So there is no design. We are restoring nature, and the water spring is going around, and we planted many different kind of flowers, and they are creating a paradise for birds and butterflies. Nevertheless, like I said before, we find energy in many sources, and we recently created another project in Montclair. And that was something that Trina and I were cherishing for many years with Mary Scotty, who was the former owner of Sea Gallery. And we created in our Lady of Mount Carmel Church a community garden. And this is very special because this community garden is not like the other 7 that we have around northern New Jersey. This community garden is supporting 3 refugee families, and they come from the Central America and Mexico, actually Colombia. But at the same time, some connection with Hope for the Flowers, because monarch butterfly, they are migrating and they don't know borders. They come from Mexico, they go to Canada, they come back from Canada to the United States, and from the United States to Mexico again. So providing food and support to this family was important. This project also produced more than what they need. So the surplus is going to other program foods in town. But at the same time, we are growing food there and giving hope, like the book. We are also creating a small pollinator garden so that we are connecting all the dots. Pollinators, hope for the flower, hope for the people, and food for the people who are hungry.
Jose, you almost introduced me, and I was supposed to introduce you. And I'd say Jose has basically said a lot. We're going to see videos of illustrating a lot of what he said, and he'll sort of guide us through that. But Jose, for me, I feel that the baton has passed. I'm older than he is, and he first came to my garden when things were nice out there. Now he has the nice place. He has the most beautiful spot that goes in, and you just feel like you're in a kind of paradise, even in his backyard. And we'll possibly see some of that today. And he has some small sections that he shows how you could raise food in very small sections. And so he represents hope for me. And to see this going on, and to see his activism all over the country and all over the world, and what he's going to be telling you about that further is very inspiring. And so the Northeast Earth Coalition is this biggest gathering of different environmentally oriented groups in the whole region, and certainly in the state of New Jersey. And so we had the biggest turnout ever here in Montclair in January. We have our annual meeting usually then. So it's such a privilege for me to know Jose and know he's my friend too. So I'm very grateful, Jose, that you joined us tonight.
You know what I am loving about this time, Jose, is that unbeknownst to you, your reach is going to get a lot larger because we are all being forced to turn to this technology to reach out to people. And so all of the things that he's doing locally, all of the things that he's been able to do in Montclair and in the Northeast region, there's going to be people across the globe being able to really get access to this, because I know his creativity. He's going to find a way to come online and do what he's doing outside. You know, we're in this quarantine, we're in this self-isolation, but I know he's going to find a way to bring to the homes, and it's going to be global. And that to me is so powerful, that you're going to be able to take the amazing, incredible things that you're doing, and it's going to have a much bigger ripple just because of the technology.
And so you'll be able to get on his sites and see more of his, and follow his journey as he expands everything. And we're going to be having, Marisol has already put together this speakers listing so that we can put up information about people and links that they want you to be able to get to. So after this, you can go on. She just did that today. Thank you, Marisol. You're really doing so much. And Scott too, that we're all in this together in every way you can imagine. And this little team is vital, because people were thinking of me as, I can't do this by myself. This is no way. This is a team effort, a big team effort. And there's also a fourth person who prefers to say, stay incognito. And he now has produced a beautiful new website that before the end of this week, perhaps we will be able to unveil it. We were so preoccupied with getting people able to get on our 7 Days of Hope and tweak that website a bit, because if any of you have made a website, you know that it takes a bunch of tweaking. So,
well, Trina, if you want to talk about teams, we should talk about the team that Jose put together, because Jose, correct me if I'm wrong, but you run on pretty much all volunteers, right?
Yes, the Northeast Earth Coalition is a volunteer-driven organization. We have representation in northern New Jersey in several cities. From the very northwest of Jersey, we have in Totowa a community project. We also had 2 community projects in Patterson, one in Passaic, which is dedicated to immigrants, women, and we have 14 women representing 14 families working there. And then we support the community garden in Montclair State University, which is supporting at the same time a student facing food insecurity at the campus. Then in downtown Montclair, we have 3 different projects. We also have the Sanctuary Community Garden in South Fullerton. We have the Crane Park and our later Mount Carmel. All of them are supported by volunteers. In total, we have more than 120 volunteers. And last year in particular, they were able to donate more than $150,000 value in volunteer work for the organization.
well, thank you very much. Is this the time that, Jose, you'd like us to show some of those videos?
Sure.
I think so.
Okay,
Scott, you're on.
okay. Shall I just go ahead and pick one, and then we'll go from there?
The mission, Scott,
Yes,
let's do the
start
mission
with the
one.
mission.
Can we start with the mission?
Mission one.
All right. And we're back.
Right.
All right, that's amazing what you do, Jose. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up starting this. How did this come to be?
Well, it happened almost recently. The Northeast Earth Coalition is a very young organization. We started in 2016. hard to believe that only has been, for 5 years now. Uh, and it was an inspiration. I always said, things come from God, and the Northeastern Coalition was an inspiration. In 24 hours, the idea came to my mind, and the organization was legally registered in the state of New Jersey. We got 3 days later the tax exempt, and everything was so beautiful. 3 weeks later, we opened the first Acting Locally for a More Sustainable World Conference, and we got 48 organizations represented at the conference, environmental activists and community activists. It was a large gathering, and people were praising the event because they said, this was needed for our community in New Jersey. That was the beginning. And then we started opening community gardens. We did the Passe Women's Center, and then we moved to Torwa, and then we continued offering trainings and coaching to the volunteers. And that is basically the story.
Is there another video that you'd like to show now, Jose?
Yes, the Northeast Coalition have 3 programs basically. One is Urban Grower, which is the backbone of our organization who
And that's
promote.
the motivational video that we're about to watch.
Yes, that's the motivation.
Scott, is it possible to turn the volume up to the video at all?
Um,
Or might we mess things up?
uh,
The videos are a little low.
okay, they might be a little low for you because I'm feeding the audio upstream to Zoom. Marisol, will you check the chat, and will the people who are watching over YouTube let us know if the volume is too loud or not?
Audio's great.
Okay,
Audio's
that would be
great.
great.
Okay, it's just me then. That's fine if it's just me.
And so, of the 3 remaining videos, the one that you'd like me to play is the one that's called "Growers Volunteer" or "Let's Help."
Growers.
Growers. All right. So let's have this, and I'm sorry that it's not loud enough for the people in the Zoom room,
It's
but
loud enough.
you can watch it on playback. So here we go. That was terrific.
Yes. We are trying to make things that are really simple. It's a very quick message, very short, but people get all the attention into what is going on in the video. And another strategy is you can share the video in Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, via email, even via text messages. So it's really easy to send the message and spread the message about producing your own food.
Jose, can somebody take those videos and send them on? Does that
Yes,
work?
they can be shared.
They're
And we
available on
also,
the YouTube channel.
right, we also have a YouTube channel. And in the YouTube channel, you can copy and like it and share it. Yeah.
Okay, that information will be on our special resources list, right, Marisol?
Yes, it will. And Jose, I also went over to your blog today and saw that beautiful post about spring has come, but so has Corona. And it has so many wonderful things that people can do at home. What a great blog post. So when you get into where the guests are, please be sure to go into his site and look at that blog post. It's going to be very, very helpful. And maybe if you have some tips right now that you can share, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. We are coaching, all the time. People are contacting and asking for information. And the best way to reach out to us is just send us an email. Visit our website, look for info at neearth.org, and I'd be more than happy to answer any question and making suggestions.
Well, is it the time for the next video?
Yes,
Okay.
let's move forward.
Shall I just pick one then? Here
I
we.
think the children's one we want to save to last,
Yes.
perhaps.
Okay, so is it Let's Help or Volunteers that I should show
Yeah,
next?
volunteers.
Volunteers it is. Here we go.
Jose, you have so much in that video. I mean, that takes hours each one. Sustainable transportation. That's just one of
Renewable
those things.
energy.
And
Everything is in
energy,
there.
everything. And one of my favorite people, Thomas Berry, says everything affects everything. It's just all together. So you can't really isolate all these things. And the coronavirus relates to climate change. And we can relate all this stuff if we work at it a little bit. And the whole technology has its downside as well as its upside. And we have to get people back to the soil, I think. Don't you think? That's one of the big things. And you're able to do that. And even the way to grow food and the container gardening that you understand so well. Well, you want to say any more about some of that? How about you can grow things right on your windowsill if you need to, or whatever.
Well, one of the things I have been paying attention to lately is all of the things that people are doing now that they're having to stay at home. And there was something on national news the other day of a woman who was in an apartment, and she was able to have an apartment garden that was both hydroponic and normal. This is something that she's been wanting to do for a long, long time. And you know, in this world that we're in, it's just too busy. We've got too many things to do, and we postpone doing, getting back to nature, or doing things with our hands, or in this case, planting a garden. So there are hidden gems all around us. And I think one of the things that will happen on the other side of this coronavirus thing that we're going through is that people have had a chance to kind of sit back and rest and take a deep breath and figure out, hey, maybe there's something else other than the track that we were on before. So have you noticed any changes, Jose, between the way it used to be in January and the way things are now, from your contacts or people? You kind of sense the society as it's going. Anything, and especially as it relates to gardening or growing one's food or one's relationship with food.
Yes, I have been, in contact with many local gardeners and friends. Things has changed suddenly. We were not expecting, to live in the situation that we are living now. But at the same time, the sense of community is bringing people together, even in difficult times. I have never been more busy than I am busy now. So the coronavirus has not stopped us to doing our work. We planted 3 gardens to support the local food program, which is overloaded with demand, because they were serving between 100 to 150 people every time that they were offering meals. Now that number is 600.
Oh
So
my.
when you have, 600 people coming to you, that means something. You need to provide food. So they spend almost all the reserve that they have in food in a week. And we are now building up a vegetable, local, fresh, organic vegetable, growing right here in Montclair to support that food program. In total, we will be adding 1,000 pounds, hopefully during the season, only for them. But people are coming to me and they're asking me ideas how I can grow my own food at home. We also developed a small program, which is an exchange for seed and plants and seedlings, and also the surplus of any food grown during the season. And that is as a result of the coronavirus crisis. And it's working beautifully. More than 150 people have signed already. They are exchanging seeds, they are exchanging seedling native plants. All of them want to grow, to have pollinator gardens in their yards. So that is an amazing situation. And that's the feeling that the people are now. They want to do something and something positive. And
Well,
when
Jose, we're getting here in the chat. There's Pat McKeon says, this time is certainly giving us time to do things differently. But I've got a question. It says, I've been trying so hard to grow a garden, but the gophers won't let me. What does someone do about a gopher?
girlfriend, well, you need to show her, the importance of local food and the taste is taste different. When you are growing your own food, you
But if
can.
she grows in the backyard and the gophers keep eating her garden, what does she do?
Well, I don't know. That is a different.
What do you do with your gardens? You don't ever have the little critters come. You just let them eat.
Well, in my garden, it's probably very strange what is going on here because we have a skunk, we have rabbits, we also have our almost permanent resident possum. We have a groundhog who has been visiting us from time to time, and even raccoons, a family of four, but they are not eating the garden. How you explain that? Well, it's because we have probably the higher diversity that you can find in a yard, even more diverse than botanical garden of New Jersey per square foot. We have 170 different kind of native plants in our yard, and they are creating a natural barrier. That's my explanation why the critters are not eating anything because they have plenty of food for them.
Oh, so they're
But
being
where
fed
do
by
they,
some of the other plants.
and where
Right.
do they get their food though, Jose? Do they, there are some things that they eat some of it, but it's just not enough to even be visible?
Well, the other thing is, since it's a very competitive space and everybody wants to enjoy a little bit, nobody's setting food there in a permanent way. They are passing by, but they are not setting territory. And that's the problem. When you have a critter in your yard and your yard is the territory of the critter, you are in trouble. You are planting to feed the critter, not your family. But there is a simple solution if you want to do that. It's just put a net, around, and that will be protecting the food.
Well, someone just said, my husband grows herbs for me in a 5-gallon bucket. He is trying out carrots right now. So they're using 5-gallon buckets to grow
Yes,
their food.
I started planting in my yard, and then when I wanted to expand the productivity of the yard, of the vegetable garden, I started using containers. I am growing vegetable in my driveway. On top of my driveway, I'm growing things there. So it's possible. So you don't have a yard. It's not an excuse to say, well, I don't have a yard. I can't grow, any vegetable. Yes, you can do. You can put it in window boxes. You can put it in container in the front door step. You can put it in the back, or even inside with hydroponic.
And Jose, one of the things you do very well is compost and compost tea. Well, you might say something about compost tea because I think a lot of people might know what compost is, but not compost tea.
Well, we all know the benefit of having a healthy soil. And when we are creating compost, we are using the compost to feed the soil. But inside of the compost, there are microorganisms. We call them nematodes, beneficial nematodes, and other, little creatures that are inside, like bacteria and things like that. Compost tea is a sophisticated way of creating a natural fertilizer, and you can do it at home. Basically, you put in a bucket with rainwater. Don't use chlorinated water because the chlorine will be killing the microorganism. And then you put a air pump, and with a colander, big colander, you put the compost uh, to fill the colander and submerge the colander in the water a little bit, not entirely, and you wait 24 hours. The process of brewing the compost tea is multiplying 10,000 times the strength of the compost or the regular compost. So what you are putting in your jar, in your ground, is fertilizing for long term your soil. And that is creating a huge difference when you see vegetable that has been grown with regular compost and then another with compost tea. And it's like a magic. And if
Wow.
you have never seen a 5 feet tall collard green, come to my home.
Well, I have a
I don't know.
question.
My daughter might pick it so she could make it. She makes some good collard greens.
I have a question that is if do you have that information in a blog or on your website, or how can someone find out more about what you were just talking about?
Well, you can go to the website and navigate it and see all the things that we have there. Like Marisol said before, we have a blog. In the blog, we have a lot of information there, very pertinent to everything, every situation. We have how to create a pollinator garden, how to start a vegetable garden, how you can certify your jar as a wildlife habitat, all the possibilities. And then if you go to the calendar, you will see events that we are hosting virtually online. They are free. We never charge anything for the workshop and the events that we are hosting.
Well, that's appropriate because we have a worldwide audience now, and you have something that you're presenting virtually online. I know you're doing things locally as well, but
Right. And that's a good time to play that Let's Help video.
oh, that's great. So, shall we do that? We'll be right back. Here we go. And we're back.
And thank you, Jose. One of the things, my first email is compost gal, and I still respond to it. And compost gal, it's like the caterpillar becoming a butterfly.
Well,
It's to
Trina,
me,
speaking of which, when you say the caterpillar becoming a butterfly, I'm hoping while you say this, I could throw this question in really quickly, because someone said that they would love for us all to discuss the difference between the caterpillar and the butterfly, as well as the fears we like yellow have that transcendence is not something that we can achieve. And I know, Jose, you were talking about the monarchs when we were on an earlier Zoom that I would love to kind of try to sneak in here if we can before we have to wrap up the hour. So I'm sorry for interrupting you, Trina, but I wanted to get that in there.
I wanted to get it in too. And to me, it's the same mystery. But I'm going to stay with compost just a little bit here because what's really so special about it is that everything that so-called dies is it really dead if it becomes the food for new life? And so it goes into the soil and feeds the soil, and new things grow out of it. And what's terrible is when we put it into a landfill or an incinerator, are good organic materials. And it's the same with the caterpillar dying to what it is as a caterpillar through the cocoon and coming out a flying butterfly that can carry the love of one flower to the other and be rewarded. We're rewarded when we do that in a way we might not expect. The, the nectar of the flower feeds and keeps the butterfly alive. It's such a beautiful exchange. And so composting and butterflies and caterpillars, they all are the same. I guess that's the theme of my life, the thing that inspires me the most. So Maury, so where are we with our timing here?
I think we're good. We have about 10 minutes before we have to wrap it up. So someone is growing tomatoes. Someone said, my brother is growing tomatoes on the balcony with the help of fish. I don't know if they would like to elaborate. Oh, aquaponics, growing plants with the help of fish poop. Okay, so hopefully people are saying we have an echo. Can you please let me know if we still have an echo?
Well, for them to know if we have an echo or not, we need to continue to talk.
I think it might have been me because it seems to be okay now. Yes, it seems to be fine now.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate the home viewing audience keeping us abreast.
Yes, thank you. Scott, I did throw in now. Jose, I didn't ask you about it, but I would love for you to throw up those images. We have images of Jose working with some of the garden volunteers, and that's the kind of work. And maybe you can talk a little bit about it when the pictures come up, Jose.
Yes, that picture in particular is at the Women's Center in Passaic. And Trina has been there with us when we planted a butterfly garden. And then we expanded the garden to 14 beds, and each family has one. And this year we were planning to create another expansion. This community garden is special in my heart because this is operated by disabled African American veterans. And it's a therapy for people suffering from PTSD disorder. So that is very, very good. And they were so productive. We coached them. We have been training them for years. And they are even in 1 year have a such surplus of food that they donated to Montclair.
That's wonderful. So we have some guests asking, could we please address our spiritual crisis that leads to the environmental crisis?
I remember one thing when, for years, I had up a quote I still hope to find from Mother Teresa. It was on my refrigerator because she has places here where her sisters are also here in the United States. And she was saying that the spiritual problems of the West are almost more serious than the ones that she faces in India because we've lost so much hope and purpose, and we have a spiritual dearth. Now, how do we address that? I feel nature is a great help. I personally find my own faith a very good thing. I think it's done well for me, and I hope I'm faithful to it. And if you find community, that's a big help. And the community, for instance, that Jose and I belong to a community. It's like a little family. In fact, when we're alone, for instance, at Thanksgiving, we eat together. We join each other at a meal because I think you have to have some sort of community. And lots of people have them within their families. And some of us, I'm living alone. My son is in California. That means we don't get together. And so that's sort of my responses.
Jose?
Yes.
the spiritual,
Well, I can
value.
add something. Yeah, what Trina said is something is really true. You can find answer for your question about a spiritual environment and all of that, and change the dynamic. When I moved to Montclair 21 years ago, I knew nobody in town, but I have met Trina through another common friend, and then that person, said, get in contact with her. And during the first Thanksgiving, I said, well, let me talk to her. And I invited her, and Trina said, can I invite other people? And I said, yes, of course. The most people we get, the better. And for the past 20 years, we have been gathering during the time of the holidays, Christmas, also Thanksgiving. But at the same time, we have been cultivating and expanding that family in the community and bringing people together and sharing our environmental values and expanding the wave of knowledge to other people. And it's working, and that's the way that we believe is the right way to make the difference, in the environment. Just acting locally and making a contribution, and don't think too much in the whole, issue of environmental issue, global environmental issue. But if you do something meaningful in your community, you are part of the solution.
Right. Marisol, I don't know what our time is quite, but what are how do we have people from different countries and different places around the world? Have they told
Yes,
you
yes, we've
they're
got the
from?
Philippines is here, and we have, this was at the beginning, let me find. And if you want to type in where you're coming in from so that Trina will know, but I know we had Philippines here. I saw that earlier. It's a little hard to run through going back to the chat. So if you guys can just let
Yeah.
me know where you're coming in from. I have two chats to man.
You're doing triple duty today, and we certainly very much appreciate it. I have a very dear friend in Malaysia who may be tuning in live. I think it's in the morning there. She may be tuning in for a replay, but it's kind of a thrill for me to be able to have a shout out to Hamima. It's been years and years and years since I've seen her, and this technology has just so much potential, and it just needs to be in the right hands at the right time. That's
So we
all
have
I can say.
Connecticut, we have Texas, we have Istanbul. So yeah, we've got a little bit of everywhere.
All the way around the world.
Istanbul had to get up in the middle of the night. Now
Well,
we particularly chose this time so that Korea and the Philippines were able to get up at a decent hour in the morning. I'm not sure quite where Malaysia fits in, but it's it's
Well,
in that area.
so Trina, to kind of wrap things up, this might be kind of fun for you to just, in broad strokes, talk about how Hope for the Flowers has transcended political borders and gone around the world. Just briefly.
It just it's just awesome for me. It's hard to believe that even though it was never reviewed by the New York Times, it did not have any big pushes. The people cooperating at Paulus Press, the publisher, cooperated with me, and I sent things out, and I got a letter back from Mrs. Martin Luther King that we used her quote often over these years that were almost 50 years now. And just gradually it moved to Europe, and then those editions are out of print. And I mistakenly never bought a whole bunch of them when they were in print, so I don't have many of those. But then it's gone to Asia, and that's where it's bigger now. And to see that happen, and I need to. One of the exciting things is that because of this, the person who got it published in Thailand has written me for the first time in over 5 years. So
that's
I'm eager.
wonderful.
I don't know, Pracha, if you're watching tonight, but it's delightful to hear from you. And
Well, Rana says it's 3 a.m. over there, but she's been waiting for this for 24 years and she couldn't miss it. Rana,
what time is it there?
3 a.m.
Okay, well, thank you for getting up.
So we are gonna wrap this up. Trina, is there one final thought before we go over to the closing video? Now, the closing video I put together, it's a beautiful song, Hope for the Flowers by the Porchistas. They allowed us to use it in this way. And when you guys hear it, at the end, we're just gonna let the video roll. Please make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you think on the chat, because I'm sure Alan would love to see that. Trina?
I think that the word for this particular session would be that there really isn't much death that cannot be turned into life. And we hope that we dare believe in it. That's how I first made my drawings that led into the book and everything, is when somebody would die, I used the words from the Mass that said, life is changed, not taken away. And I made a picture of the caterpillar and a cocoon and a butterfly. I had no idea this book would ever come, but I would give it to people because it's a symbol of new life and transformation and resurrection. And so compost of our organic materials is like that. The caterpillar dying to itself and to a cocoon becoming a butterfly is like that. And so we're going through a death of the past. Right now, this coronavirus cocoon that we're in is a death to something, and we hope that what comes out is much more beautiful and better, but that will take us all to work on it. So this is not the moment to just mourn. You get a lot of information about corona all over the place, but this is to think about how we can use this time and what we can do. And that's why I'm featuring really positive people with a vision. And so thank you, Jose, very much for coming tonight and your life work that you're doing that's so important. And may you have the energy and the health and the strength to go on. And may all of you out there who are suffering recover, hopefully. And those of us who are trying to stay well, we stay well. And we don't contaminate anybody else. And let's hope we can make this world a better world and learn to live with our viruses and our microbes and our animals and our plants in a more wholesome way, and tend the garden that I think God gave us to start with.
Without butterflies, the world will have few flowers, so grow your wings and fly. Feed the plants and float by the river, and we'll be here by your side.
Make great choices and take big risks if they're good for you and the rainforest. Sing really loud and don't be afraid. You are the stuff of which butterflies are made. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Sometimes the pile that everyone's a-climbing up seems like the shiniest thing. But look in the eyes of the others you've been stepping on and wake to the light of all beings. Hope, hope, hope for the flowers. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. bosque le necesita para vivir. Hope for the flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para vivir. Hope for the flowers, transform, embrace, and realize your power. El bosque le necesita para